Discover how a black homeless boy's touching act changed a surgeon's daughter's life forever. David stood on the corner of Woodward Avenue, a thin yet strong 14-year-old with a smile that could brighten the darkest of days. In the bustling streets of Detroit, he found joy in the simplest things like sharing the last piece of bread with his friends, even when he was hungry himself. While most people walked past him with averted eyes, David's laughter echoed through the chaos, a defiant roar against the hardships that life tossed his way. He knew what it was like to be invisible, but his spirit shone as brightly as the summer sun. This boy with his sketchbook, filled with intricate drawings made from scraps of paper, was more than just a homeless kid. He was a flicker of hope. Across town, Sophia stood in her lavish kitchen, the smell of freshly brewed coffee mixing with the floral scent of her mother's expensive perfume. As the daughter of a prominent surgeon, all eyes were on her to succeed. It felt like a heavy backpack filled with rocks she carried wherever she went. "You must get into the best medical school, Sophia," her father would say, his voice resonating like a persistent drumbeat. And while her father's expectations loomed over her, she longed for authenticity and connection, something missing in her gilded life. One fateful summer afternoon, Sophia decided to spend her day volunteering at a local community center. It was there she met David. As he sketched, the world around him faded away. He poured his heart onto the page, rendering breathtaking scenes of life and struggle. Sophia was captivated. She approached him, and the moment their eyes met, it felt electric. "Wow, you're really talented," she said, her voice filled with wonder. David blinked, surprised, feeling the warmth of being truly seen for the first time. "Thanks," he replied, a shy smile creeping across his face. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let us continue. As the days rolled on, David and Sophia forged a friendship, exchanging laughter and stories amidst the backdrop of the community center's buzzing hall. Yet, one evening, a misunderstanding arose and tempers flared. "You don't know what it's like," David exclaimed, frustration bubbling to the surface as he waved his drawings. "Your life is perfect, and you think you can just swoop in and fix everything." Sophia's chest tightened at his words, internally battling the weight of her privilege and guilt. This conversation shattered the blissful illusion of their friendship, urging them both to confront the stark realities of their lives. But in the aftermath, something shifted. David's artwork blossomed under Sophia's encouragement, and they decided to participate in an upcoming community art exhibition together. For David, it was a chance to rise above the labels that life tried to impose on him. For Sophia, it was an opportunity to break free from her father's shadow. As the event approached, their excitement mingled with anxiety. What if nobody showed up? What if no one cared? The day of the exhibition dawned, and the air was thick with anticipation. Would their shared vision be enough to break through the clutter of societal prejudices? As Sophia prepared to introduce David to the crowd, doubt crept in, yet her heart raced with the kind of anxious thrill that promised change. Would they emerge victorious from their intertwined stories, or were they destined to falter? The questions loomed, the answer still waiting to unfold. As the sun dipped low in the sky, casting golden rays through the windows of the community center, David stood at the entrance, nervously adjusting his worn hoodie. Anxiety twisted in his stomach. Today was their day to shine, yet he felt as if he were standing on the edge of a cliff, peering into an uncertain abyss below. Sophia stood beside him, her bright smile masking her own fears. "Are you ready?" she asked, excitement dancing in her eyes. David took a deep breath, glancing at the array of his art hanging on the walls. Each piece told a story, a fragment of his life captured in vivid colors and raw emotions. But would anyone care? Would they see him for more than just a boy without a home? "Yeah, I guess I am," he replied, trying to sound confident. Yet, his voice was barely above a whisper. The community room began to fill with people, parents, artists, and kids from the center. Sophia noticed their bodies, eager yet tentative, stepping more slowly than she expected. She looked at David, who was scanning the crowd, his expression a mix of hope and fear. "It's going to be okay," she said softly, a part of her wishing she could shake off her own nerves. As Sophia took the stage, the chatter faded into a rapt silence. She felt the weight of the crowd's gaze on her, their expectations thick in the air. "Thank you all for being here today," she began, her voice steadying. "This exhibition is about more than just art. It's a celebration of stories, resilience, and the strength we find in one another." She paused, her heart racing, thinking of David. "Today, I want to introduce you to a remarkable artist whose talent and perspective will inspire us all." David felt his pulse quicken as he stepped into view from behind the curtain. The spotlight felt blinding, and he hesitated until Sophia's encouraging nod urged him forward. As he approached the audience, whispers swirled around him, like warm breezes brushing against his skin. There was curiosity, but also uncertainty. David squared his shoulders, clenching the edges of his sketchbook, the pages filled with dreams and depictions of life he longed to share. He began to speak, his voice shaky but growing stronger with each word. "These drawings, they're my life. They show my struggles and my joys. I want you to see me not just as a homeless kid, but as someone who dreams, loves, and fights every day." Gasps filled the room as he revealed each piece, the artwork now a window into his soul. The vibrant colors, the raw emotion, stirred feelings in the audience, many feeling the weight of their own lives reflected in David's art. Then, the unexpected happened. A woman from the back stood up, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You are extraordinary," she cried, her voice breaking. "Your work has touched my heart like nothing else." Slowly, others followed. Applause erupted, filling the room. David's eyes widened, stunned by the rising tide of acceptance and love washing over him. Sophia stood at his side, her heart soaring with pride and joy. In this moment, their worlds collided beautifully. But as the cheers echoed, an unsettling thought crept into her mind. What would happen once the applause faded? Could their friendship survive the realities of their lives outside this moment? The event was a success, but they both knew that the real challenge was just beginning. As the last of the crowd filtered out, David turned to Sophia. "What do we do now?" His voice quivered, revealing the fragility beneath his newfound confidence. Sophia met his gaze, uncertainty pooling in her chest. She suddenly felt the weight of possibilities stretching out before them, both thrilling and frightening. "I guess, we find a way to keep this going, but what?" The answer hung in the air like an unanswered question. The spark that ignited their friendship now had the chance to blaze into something more, but the path before them felt shadowy. Would they embrace it together, or would the world pull them apart? As they stood there, two souls intertwined, one thing was clear: they were on the brink of something big, something that could change everything. The days following the exhibition felt surreal for David. He woke up to find his sketches still bright in his mind, the applause echoing. But as reality set in, his excitement was mixed with uncertainty. The warmth of the community center was fading, and he was back in his small room at the shelter by nightfall. Sophia was determined to keep the momentum alive. The very next day, she called David, her voice buzzing with energy. "I've been thinking. We should create a series of art workshops for the kids at the center. Share your skills and stories. They need someone to look up to, and you'd be amazing." David's heart fluttered at the suggestion. "But what if they don't listen? What if I'm not good enough?" She laughed, a sound that danced across the phone line. "You're selling yourself short. If you could move a room full of adults, imagine what you could do with kids." He could almost see her bright smile through the phone. They met up at the community center later that week, the walls still echoing with those earlier celebrations. David felt a mixture of hope and fear as he walked back into the room where he had shared his art. "I never thought I'd be the one teaching," he mused as they started organizing supplies. Sophia bumped his shoulder playfully. "You're already leading with your art. Imagine showing them how to express themselves, just like you did." As the kids slowly gathered, David felt a swell of nerves. Their eyes sparkled with curiosity and mischief. They were a diverse bunch, some shy, some bouncing with energy. It reminded him of being a kid myself, the glue of art forming connections. "Okay, everyone," David said, gathering their attention despite his shaky voice. "Today, we're going to create something that tells your story. It could be a drawing, a painting, or even a collage. No rules. Just express what you feel." One little girl in the front raised her hand. "What if we don't know how?" David paused, recalling his own doubts. "That's okay. Art isn't about knowing how. It's about feeling. Just put your heart on the paper." As they spread out, David moved from one child to another, offering encouragement. He felt their hesitance begin to dissolve. Color filled the canvas, bright laughter mixed with comments about their dreams becoming astronauts, superheroes, or artists just like him. It was pure magic, and for the first time, he felt needed. "But about your life?" asked a boy with big, round glasses, his brow furrowed in concentration. "How did you get here?" David felt a knot tighten in his throat. He hesitated but decided honesty would connect. "I've had challenges, like losing my home. Art helps me cope. It shows my story. Maybe you'll discover yours too." Silence fell for a moment, and then the boy nodded thoughtfully. The shared weight of their experiences knotted them in an unspoken understanding. At the end of the session, mothers and fathers gathered to see the creations. David watched as they raved, not just for the art but for the students' courage to express themselves. He noticed a spark of confidence in the kids' eyes, a reflection of what he once felt on that stage. Sophia beamed at David as he wiped sweat from his brow. "You did it. You truly did it." But right then, David felt a ripple of anxious contemplation. This newfound purpose was exhilarating but also daunting. What came next? Could he continue building this path while avoiding his reality? Could he break free from the chains of his past? As the evening sun cascaded through the windows, bathing them in golden light, David looked at Sophia. "Do you think we can make this a regular thing?" Her eyes sparkled with dreams. "I hope so. Because I think you can change so many lives, David. Including yours." But would he be brave enough to take on this challenge? The question lingered in the air, heavy with hope and uncertainty, as they looked forward to the future and whatever it would hold. The next few weeks spiraled into an unexpected rhythm for David. The art workshops became a cornerstone of his days. With each passing session, he found himself growing into the role of a mentor. The kids' laughter felt like chords playing in harmony, and their excitement was contagious. Every creative expression shared between them filled the community center with a warmth he hadn't realized he was missing. Sophia often joined, helping to set up supplies and encourage the kids. "You're really inspiring them," she said one afternoon, smiling as a little boy showed off his painting of a bright green dragon. "They look up to you, you know." David chuckled, surprised. "I look up to them too. They remind me that art can heal, and I'm just trying to keep up." It was during one of these sessions that a girl named Mia caught his attention. She sat quietly in the corner, drawing intently, her brow furrowed in concentration. There was something special about the way her small fingers danced across the page. Intrigued, David walked over. "What are you drawing?" he asked gently. Mia hesitated, a shadow crossing her face. "It's silly." "Nothing is silly when it comes to art," David replied, crouching beside her. "Why don't you show me?" With reluctance, she turned the paper toward him. It was a colorful landscape filled with flowers and a son wearing sunglasses. It was vibrant, full of joy. "It's South my happy place," Mia admitted softly. David felt a pang in his heart. Her eyes were still so full of wonder, yet burdened with something deeper he couldn't quite understand. "It's beautiful, Mia. Can I show everyone?" She blushed and glanced down. "Only if you want." As David carried her drawing around to the other kids, he noticed Mia's smile gradually returning. The atmosphere shifted as more kids shared their creations too. Art turned into a language that broke barriers and built bridges, connecting them all in a profound way. Later that day, David sat down with Sophia. The weight of their budding project tugged at him. "Do you really think I can make a difference?" he asked. "Sometimes it feels like I'm just playing pretend." "You are not pretending, David," she said, her voice serious. "You're giving them hope. You're changing their lives, one brushstroke at a time." He thought back to the way they interacted, the bond that formed within the colorful chaos. Yet, self-doubt gnawed at him. He had worked so hard to get here, but each success felt fragile, teetering on the brink of everything he'd lost. A few days later, Sophia came running up to him after one of the workshops, breathless with excitement. "Guess what? I've arranged an exhibit showcasing the kids' art." David's heart raced. "You're kidding, right? It's happening. Just think about it, they'll show off their creativity to the community. It will give them the recognition they deserve." His mind swirled with possibilities. "But what if they're not ready? They need you, David. They need your encouragement. You're their bridge to the world outside, their way to shine." The idea of their art being shared with a wider audience both thrilled and terrified him. Could he promote their work authentically without falling back into his own insecurities? The very thought of it sent shivers down his spine. As they plotted over the details, David struggled with his own fears. Would these kids be able to shine brightly? Would he be there to support them in trouble? Those questions loomed large as the date of the exhibit approached, and David's heart pounded in anticipation. "Are you ready for this?" Sophia asked, looking at him with unwavering belief. He managed a shaky smile. "I want to be. But, can I really handle it?" David's gaze drifted, lost in thought. As the colors from the workshop faded into evening shadows, he wondered if he was truly ready for the leap. Would he rise to the occasion or falter under the weight of expectation? The upcoming exhibit promised a chance for transformation, not just for the children, but for David as well. And as the date loomed closer, he felt a stirring of hope even if tangled with fear. But would he step under the spotlight, knowing what it could mean for them all? The transition from doubt to belief felt perilous, but deep down, he knew they all were fighting for something more than just that evening. They were standing together in pursuit of a future filled with art and possibilities. The days leading up to the exhibit flew by, each tick of the clock building anxiety in David. He spent hours with the kids, inviting them to put the final touches on their artwork. Encouragement poured out of him as they picked bright colors and bold shapes, yet inside, his heart felt heavy. Sophia tailored every detail of the exhibit meticulously. "The space looks fantastic," she declared, her eyes gleaming with excitement. David nodded, but his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. The room echoed with laughter, yet as they prepared, the weight of expectations pressed down on him like a boulder. On the morning of the exhibit, David arrived early. The community center had transformed. Strings of colorful lights hung from the ceiling, and artworks each piece a story adorned the walls. Yet, as the children trickled in, he noticed their excitement also danced with a flicker of uncertainty. "Mia. What about you? Are you ready?" he asked her brightly, but her gaze drifted shyly. "I don't know," she mumbled. "What if no one likes my happy place?" David knelt beside her. "Listen, every person who sees your art will feel something. Your happy place is just as important as anything else." She looked slightly reassured, but her anxious eyes scanned the room. The first guests began to arrive. Parents, community members, and friends flooded in. David's heart raced as familiar faces greeted each other, excitement buzzing through the crowd. But just as easily, he felt a swell of panic rise. Would they appreciate these kids' hard work? Sophia caught him in the hallway, her voice low. "Are you okay?" "I'm terrified," he confessed, rubbing the back of his neck. "This is so much for them. They'll shine, especially with you right there," she insisted, her faith wrapping around him like a warm blanket. As the exhibit officially opened, an unexpected wave of joy washed over David. The kids stood proudly beside their masterpieces, their faces aglow. Laughter erupted when someone exclaimed over Mia's sun-soaked landscape, and he watched as her hand instinctively went to her chest, swelling with pride. Then he heard a soft chuckle, followed by a gasp of delight. A group of children was crowded around a boy with wild hair, their immediate attention drawn to the canvas of a towering cityscape, bright and chaotic. The artist, a boy named Marcus, beamed as he shared the story behind it. "This is where I want to live. Not in the streets, but on the rooftops," he exclaimed, his enthusiasm catching fire. David grinned despite himself. As the minutes turned to hours, the energy surged. Parents applauded, neighbors beamed with admiration, and newfound friendships formed among children who had once been strangers. Each story behind the art resonated, wrapping the audience in insights that no one expected. But then, amidst the laughter, David noticed Mia slipping away from her spot. She wandered to a corner of the room, the bright light dimming in her eyes once again. He quickly followed her, sensing something deeper brewing. "Mia, what's wrong?" David asked softly, concern etched into his features. "It feels like I'm just small," she whispered, her self-doubt creeping back. "What if my happy place isn't good enough?" David's heart ached. Small? Looking at her artwork, he felt it bursting with life. "Don't say that. Your happy place is special. We're all small in our own ways, but it's our stories that are big. That's what matters." Mia looked up at him, hesitation still clinging to her. As the sun began to set outside, casting golden hues inside the community center, David shifted his focus. The exhibit was more than just art on the walls, it was a manifestation of their dreams, fears, and hope. "Let us go show everyone. You need to be proud," he encouraged. Together, they walked back towards the crowd, but the crowd was now moving, something different was unfolding before them, and that's when David realized something monumental was about to take place. The true impact of their efforts was about to flood the room with emotion and possibilities he never anticipated. David felt a pulse of anticipation ripple through the room as he and Mia approached the crowd. The noise swelled, laughter mingling with gasps of awe over the children's creations. Just then, he spotted a group of daughters and sons huddling together, their expressions alive with wonder. Bubbles of conversation burst in the air, laughter pealing like tiny bells, contrasting with the gentle hum of anticipation in his own chest. Suddenly, a small boy stepped forward, his face framed by unruly curls. David recognized him as Jamal, a boy whose wit and laughter often lit up the playground but who also faced trials that most kids didn't. Jamal's presence radiated warmth as he stood beside a bold piece of abstract art, swirls of blue and green intermingling with splatters of orange and gold. "This is the ocean of dreams," he declared, pointing with a wide grin that made his eyes twinkle. "You can lose yourself in it, there are treasures everywhere." David felt a lump form in his throat. He often thought Jamal's spirit shone the brightest, even on the grayest days. The way Jamal connected the art to his own life was a revelation for the whole audience. People began to gather around, their attention drifting towards his canvas, captivated by the story behind it. "I painted this after visiting the beach," Jamal continued. "I love the ocean, but it's not just water, it's also where my worries float away." The crowd murmured in agreement, some nodding enthusiastically. David caught Mia's eye. Her fear seemed to dissolve as she listened, transfixed by Jamal's passion. She smiled, and he felt a rush of relief surge within him. This was exactly what he hoped for, that they wouldn't just show their art, but share intimate pieces of themselves and their journeys. As Jamal spoke, David noticed a woman walking through the growing crowd, her fitted blazer and perfect hair in sharp contrast to the children's handmade creations. He felt a twinge of concern. She was the head of the local art council, someone whose opinion held weight. Would she understand the beauty of their stories? Just as he feared the worst, the woman approached Jamal, her eyes filled with genuine admiration. "You have an extraordinary imagination, Jamal. Your ocean of dreams feels alive," she said, kneeling to be at eye level with him. The recognition in Jamal's eyes lit up the room like fireworks. "Thank you." He beamed, his voice soft but proud. "I wanted everyone to feel free and happy. Even if it feels chaotic sometimes." Jamal's words lingered in the air, touching chords in David's heart. He believed in finding freedom through the chaos, in art and in life. The room seemed to breathe together, caught in a moment of shared vulnerability. Suddenly, laughter erupted from a group near Mia, their attention drawn to her painting. Encouraged, she stepped forward and began to explain her piece, a vibrant landscape filled with flowers blooming under the sun. "This is my happy place. I feel safe and free here," she announced, her voice hesitating but growing stronger with each word. People were drawn in, eager to hear her story, just as they had listened to Jamal. David felt a tear slip down his cheek, not of sadness but sheer pride. He marveled at how each child was unearthing layers of their own experiences, sharing their shadows and their light through art. As the exhibit continued to unfold, the energy shifted once more, and there was an undeniable pull toward an unexpected corner of the room. David turned and caught sight of a newcomer, a boy standing seemingly apart from the crowd. His eyes darted nervously, and in his hand, he held a small piece of paper crumpled and worn. "What is going on there?" David whispered to Sophia, who had joined him. Chills raced down his spine. Before she could answer, a hush fell over the room. The boy raised the paper and took a breath. What he was about to reveal might change everything. David couldn't shake the overwhelming sense that this moment was pivotal. The weight of the room's silence pressed on him as all eyes turned toward the newcomer, a boy who looked no older than 8 or 9. The stillness hung between them like the calm before a storm. The boy's hands trembled slightly as he unfolded the paper, revealing a scribbled drawing, crude but full of emotion. This is my family," he began, his voice barely above a whisper, but the way he struggled to speak made David's heart ache. "This is my mom, and that's me," and he paused, his eyes scanning the faces before him, as if searching for something or someone. When he refocused on his drawing, David could see tears welling up in the boy's eyes, a mixture of vulnerability and determination. "Life has been hard," he continued, swallowing hard, "but my mom always says we are still a family. No matter what." David felt the crowd's collective breath hitch. It was a raw reminder of the challenges so many faced that weren't reflected in cheerful art pieces. The boy's words were fire and ice. They ignited empathy while simultaneously chilling hearts. "Even if we don't have a house, we can be happy." The boy's trembling voice took on strength, echoing through the room. "I painted this when I dreamt of having a home again. I wanted to show it to others to remind them that love is enough." Gasps moved like ripples across the audience, as tears flowed freely now. The room shifted. This wasn't merely an art show anymore, it was a testament to resilience, to hope, to the raw beauty of the human spirit. David's pulse raced. He glanced at Mia, who stood spellbound. Her eyes sparkled with empathy, reflecting understanding that flooded into the air. The gravity of the boy's struggles was palpable, yet here he stood, weaving hope through pain, using art as his lifeline. Just as the applause began to break forth, the boy looked up, catching David's gaze. In that moment, something shifted. David felt a connection that ran deeper than words, their eyes locked in silent recognition of the weight they both carried. The boy's courage spoke volumes, stirring a desire in David to act, but then, a jarring sound disrupted the flow of emotion. tearing David from his thoughts. A sharp voice interjected from the back of the room, "What's that supposed to mean?" It was the slick-haired art council woman again, crossing her arms. Her words carried a chill that snuffed the warmth. "This isn't a charity rally, it's an art exhibit. We are here to celebrate creativity, not whatever that is." An electric tension surged as gasps turned to murmurs of unease. David could see Mia's face fall, her previous joy fading. The crowd was torn, caught between admiration for the boy's message and the sharp critique of the woman who seemed to value aesthetics over authenticity. A deep breath lost in the air, David felt a wave of resolve wash over him. The confrontation demanded a response, not just for the boy standing at the center of scrutiny, but for everyone witnessing this essential moment. As the murmurs escalated, he stepped forward, ready to bridge the gap. "Wait," he began, but was drowned out by the swelling voices of dissent and concern within the audience. He needed to connect the pieces, to shift the narrative and reclaim the power of the boy's honesty. As he opened his mouth to speak again, the tension thickened. Could he change the tide? Could he help them understand the beauty in this honesty laid bare? And even as the moment remained suspended in uncertainty, a single thought pulsed through David's mind. Sometimes, standing for what is right could change everything. What would he say to make them see? David felt the tension in the air, thick enough to cut with a knife. The crowd's conflicting emotions twisted around him like a storm, each whisper amplifying his concern. He could see the boy's confidence wavering, teetering on the edge of despair, and that sight ignited a flame within him. I think what he is saying is important," David finally mustered, raising his voice above the din. Eyes turned toward him, some curious, others doubtful. The critique from the art council woman hung heavy, and he understood the perilous moment they were in. What is art if not a reflection of our lives? David pressed on, locking eyes with the boy. This drawing is more than just colors on paper. This is his story. And art, true art, carries the weight of our lives, the struggles, the love, the realities we face. The room held its breath, the murmurs dying down as the intensity of David's words began to resonate. He could see Mia nodding slightly from the corner of his eye, encouragement glowing on her face. Every person here knows what it means to face hardship, he continued, his voice gaining strength. We've all felt lost at some point. And isn't that what connects us? Isn't that why we're here? To celebrate not just the beauty, but the truth? A flicker of understanding crept across the audience. David could feel hearts beginning to open, barriers softening. He could see in the boy's eyes a glimmer of hope, a spark reigniting that had almost been extinguished. The slick-haired woman narrowed her eyes, defensive, but David didn't back down. This isn't just an art exhibit, he said firmly. It's an opportunity to embrace the stories that often go unheard. A chance to elevate voices that need to be shared. The crowd began murmuring, a ripple of agreement flowing through those closest to him. Art doesn't have to fit into neat little boxes, David urged. It can be messy, raw, and real. Isn't that worth celebrating? Mia stepped forward, her voice steady as she added, when we isolate art from our reality, we miss the most beautiful parts of it. This is a reminder of our shared humanity. The boy's face brightened, courage coloring his features anew, and David felt something shift within the room. Paralyzed moments turned into movement as people began to step away from their doubts, leaning into the honesty being portrayed. Applause started slowly, hesitant at first, but quickly grew into a thunderous response as hearts began to resonate in unison. The slick-haired woman remained silent, the fire in David's heart fueling the tide of change sweeping over the gallery. Let us lift this boy's voice. Someone in the back shouted, sparking a wave of support that trickled forward, connecting everyone in that moment. David's chest swelled with strength. They could transform this space into something radiant, a haven built on understanding and courage. As more claps blended with heartbeats, David looked back at the boy, who flashed a smile that lit up the entire room, but just as elation began to settle in, another voice broke through, slicing the joy like glass. Are you really going to reward a child for misery? Another skeptic emerged from the shadows, his words full of disdain. How do you plan to fix this, anyway? David's heart sank again, the warmth of the moment replaced by a chilling reminder of the resistance they faced. It was one thing to elevate the boy's story, but altogether another to confront the pessimism that lingered. With a deep breath, David turned back to face the crowd, ready to counter that challenge. But this time, it wouldn't just be about words, it would be about action. He needed to inspire them to not only hear the message but to do something about it. Could he turn their newfound energy into a movement? As he opened his mouth to speak, he realized he was standing on the edge of something monumental, not just for the boy, but for an entire community. What could they achieve together if they united for a cause greater than themselves? Would this moment spark the change they all needed? Let us prove him wrong, David said, his voice steady, echoing in the hall despite the doubts hovering nearby. He pushed through the subtle tension, hoping the words would carry weight. This isn't about rewarding sadness. This is about giving a voice to those who have been silenced. He caught Mia's eye, willing her strength not only to support him but to challenge those still hesitant. The crowd began to shift, shoulders relaxing as the boy's drawing hung between them like a bridge, connecting disparate lives into one shared narrative. Art can inspire change. David continued, his passion bubbling over. It can ignite hope, stir compassion, and create understanding. Isn't that worth fighting for? The murmur that surged through the room was electric. He could see some faces softening, thinking back to their own battles. If they could just reach those skeptical hearts, perhaps they could transform doubt into action. Look at this boy, David gestured toward the young artist. He faced adversity and instead of hiding, he created something beautiful. The boy shifted, standing a little taller now. Every stroke on that paper tells a story most wouldn't dare to share. Can't we at least honor that? Someone from the back shouted, yeah. Why not support him? David felt a swell of hope. The momentum was building. As one person voiced support, others followed suit. Hearts were uniting in that room, each encouraging the next to let go of their reservations. Art doesn't just capture beauty, it captures struggle, resilience, and fear, David said. And isn't it in those moments of raw honesty, like this boy's, where true transformation begins? The slick-haired woman shifted uncomfortably, her expression a mix of annoyance and realization. David sensed her authority crumbling, the maybes giving way to the possibility of a community crisis resolved through understanding. Together, we can create opportunities for everyone, he pressed on. This exhibit isn't just about showcasing talent, it's about empowering voices that echo in empty rooms. This child deserves our attention, every bit as much as anyone here. The applause reverberated in waves, a collective heartbeat of agreement coursing through the air. David's heart raced, the energy contagious. He could feel Mia offering a standing ovation beside him, and with each clap, the boy's smile grew brighter, but beneath the warmth, a flicker of doubt remained. What if the support faded as quickly as it appeared? What if the heartwarming applause turned into whispers of discontent once the spotlight dimmed? Just then, a woman, her face weary yet determined, stood from her chair. David, she said unexpectedly. I lost my job last year. My husband, he left me. I haven't painted in months because I thought it was pointless. David felt the weight of her words. This moment was larger than anyone had anticipated. It resonated deeply, not just with him but with many in the room, struggles layered on struggles. Your story matters too, he replied. This is our opportunity to unite. Art, like hope, can bring healing. We need each other now more than ever. She nodded, tears glistening in her eyes as she grasped the message, the understanding that they were interwoven, that together they held the power to reshape their reality. Across the gallery, people began to stand up, sharing their stories, their fears, their dreams. By the time David was ready to speak again, the room felt electric, alive with possibility. But just as momentum surged, a chaotic crash echoed from the back of the gallery. A figure stumbled through a door, poised to disrupt their fragile unity. David's breath halted, heart thundering. What now? Just then, the atmosphere shattered like glass. A figure burst through the door, disheveled and wild-eyed. The crowd collectively gasped. It was a man, his clothes worn and dirty, holding a paint-streaked canvas. "Stop!" he shouted, his voice hoarse yet filled with urgency. "You don't get it. Art doesn't change anything." David's heart plummeted. Would this interrupt their moment of solidarity? The crowd turned, unsure whether to engage or retreat. The man stood there, trembling, holding the canvas like a shield. "I've poured my soul into this," he continued, his voice now shaking, "but nothing ever changes. People applaud, they celebrate art, and then they turn away." Sophia stepped forward, her heart racing. "What's your name?" she asked gently, trying to connect with him. The man hesitated, caught off guard by her kindness. "Ryan," he replied, still fidgeting with his canvas. "And I used to think painting would help me escape, show others how beautiful life can be. But every day, I watch it all fall apart again." David felt the weight of those words settling like lead. He knew that feeling too well. A heartbeat passed, heavy with shared pain. "Ryan, your pain matters," David said, stepping forward. "Art can express it, bring people together. It can help them understand." "No!" Ryan interrupted, tears now spilling down his cheeks, his voice rising. "What's the point? You learn to create, but life still hits back." David felt his heart racing, but he couldn't let the negativity snuff out the flickering hope around him. "I understand," he said softly, locking eyes with Ryan. "I've been there. Life is hard, but when we share our stories through art, we're creating connections. We're telling others they're not alone. It's about more than beauty, it's about truth." The crowd listened, growing tense but attentive. Something inside David stirred. If they could get through to Ryan, perhaps they could turn his pain into shared resilience. "Let us show you," Mia chimed in, her voice simmering with courage. "Your struggles are our struggles. Let us put your story on the canvas, just like we did with our own." A murmur rippled through the audience, a wave of empathy surging forth. "We don't have all the answers," Sophia added, "but we're learning together. Art is our way to find hope." Ryan's expression flickered between anger and vulnerability. "You think that's enough?" David nodded, feeling the strength in their collective voices. "It starts here, right now. Will you join us?" Slowly, Ryan's stiff posture relaxed, the fight beginning to fade. Perhaps there was space for healing among the fractured stories. The crowd leaned in, awaiting his response. Finally, he sighed, the canvas drooping wider. "Maybe," he whispered. Encouraged, David opened his arms. "Come on. Share with us." As Ryan stepped further away from his doubts, he held the canvas high. "Okay, but it's not just pretty colors," he warned. "It's raw, it's painful. Perfect." The crowd responded, admiration glowing in their eyes, drawing him closer. Just then, another voice joined in from the back. "And that's exactly what we need." It was the slick-haired art council woman, stepping tentatively forward, doubt etched on her face but curiosity too. The reality of it can't be ignored. David felt hope resonate once more. Perhaps even those who questioned had begun to see. "Together, we can paint a picture of hope and struggle," he said, arms still outstretched. "Let us begin." The energy shifted, sparking life. Ryan approached the children, who encouraged him, sharing the stories behind their own artwork. The warmth began to thrum through the air again. One by one, others shared their narratives, revealing struggles woven through their creativity, capturing hearts in new ways. David looked around, his heartbeat echoing with laughter and honesty. For the first time, the exhibit engulfed them all, stories of pain and struggle transformed into remarkable art, every stroke breathing courage into the walls. Eventually, as hiccups of laughter mixed with tears of hope rang across the room, David smiled at Mia and Sophia. They had crossed from uncertainty to understanding. The best part? They'd done it together, standing at the center of their changed reality. David felt gratitude swell within him, a flutter of possibility in the air. Life was filled with hardships and hurts, but united by art, they were learning to rise above. "Let us keep this going," he said, voice steadier than it had ever been. "This is just the beginning." Murmurs of agreement echoed around him, and for the first time in a long time, David felt a connection to something larger than himself. As they began to brainstorm more workshops and community projects, a sense of optimism radiated through the crowd, the kind that promised transformation, and in that moment, he understood art wasn't simply a form of expression. It was a movement, a way to weave their truths into the world and ignite a fire of change. He turned to Sophia, her radiant smile reflecting the light of their collective hope and joy. Together, hand in hand with all those around them, they were ready to embrace whatever came next, determined to create a community where everyone's voice, every story would be cherished. This was it. They had found their purpose, their family. And David knew if they held on to that, nothing could break their spirit again. And as the sun set behind the community center, painting the sky in brilliant hues, their laughter echoed, illuminating the darkness, a testament that love and art could change lives forever. Before the night ended, David turned to the friends now standing so close around him. "Let us spread this," he said, fierce determination in his eyes. "Let us show the world that even the hardest stories matter. Together, we can change lives." He could feel the energy surge around him, ready to charge into the new dawn. Now, more than ever, they understood this was how they began to build hope. Don't wait one more second. You need to subscribe now to catch every exclusive story we'll share, because this is just the beginning. Hit that like button to show your support, trust me, it matters. Comment below with your reactions to this emotional journey, it makes a difference and connects us, and share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need this kind of inspiration in their lives. Together, let us lift those stories into the light.